Hey babes, welcome to day 2 of the Playful Parenting Workshop series. I'm so freaking excited to be back here today. I'm going to give you a moment to get comfortable, to get situated and settled. Today we're diving into the power struggles of parenting. How to disengage from the power struggles, how to support your children through their big emotions without getting pulled into their big emotions, how to be able to become like a safe, solid home base for them when they're freaking out. So instead of you freaking out with them or at them and being triggered by and getting pulled into their emotional storm, you learn how to be the big mama bear that gets to hold this big, safe ground for them, that gets to become this powerful anchor of love and safety and permission to express and to feel and to be themselves. And what happens as a mother who can hold that kind of space, your child is able to move through their big experience so much quicker and with so much more ease. And then you become this gift because suddenly they're not being shamed for their big feelings. They're not being fixed for them. They're not being made wrong for them. And instead, they're just being witnessed in the humanness of being fucking frustrated or sad or mad or scared, right? And they get to feel confident and maintain their sense of self as they move through their emotions. And when you learn healthy ways of moving through your emotions, you get to teach them this. So then they become emotionally intelligent people walking through the world, right? With an emotionally intelligent mother. And what it does is it creates a much more peaceful environment too. Maybe on the outside it's not so peaceful, right? Because you've got you or your kid like punching pillows and screaming into pillows maybe a little bit more often, but the waters of the home are more stable. The undercurrent is not one of built up, unexpressed, untended emotion that's wreaking havoc on everything else in your day. Whew, that cleared something for somebody. Someone felt seen just now. Um, so the undercurrent switches from that to something of stability, to something of self trust, to something of deep permission to be yourself. And so the reason we get caught in these power struggles with our kids in the first place is a few different reasons. Number one, we're fucking tired. Pure exhaustion, having nothing left to give, and then having to do this heavy lifting of emotional parenting is fucking hard. And you cannot do it with an empty cup. You cannot do it exhausted. So, the number one most fixable thing is that moms aren't taking care of themselves. We're so busy taking care of everybody else. And then we have so much more to take care of because we are becoming essentially ineffective at creating um, a more stable environment within and around us, aka our homes. So we become ineffective at that, which creates more problems in our mind, at least, and requires more of us. Whereas if moms were encouraged to take time to refill, to refuel, to rest, to disengage and let everybody's stuff go for a moment regularly and consistently, if moms were encouraged to feel shit and to be whole on their own, we would have so much more energy to bring to our children in these situations. And instead, usually it's the hair, it's that last thread, right? It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. Your kid does something and just sets you off. And you know in your conscious mind it really has very little to do with your child, but you start to snowball and spiral because it was just the last thing, the last fucking thing that you could take before everything comes flooding in. This is how it used to be with my partner. I remember like I'd get mad, I'd be passive aggressive and blow up. And then finally we'd get through this whole emotional shitstorm of mine. that was untended stuff that had been piling up and piling up, and I've been trying to do more and do more and do more instead of like resting and doing less and letting this stuff move through me and tending to it and loving it and caring for myself. Instead, I was punishing myself and overworking myself and overfunctioning and trying so damn hard to be perfect and tiptoeing around everybody. And then I would have this big emotional crisis. And then at the end, I would become like, well, there's all this and this and this and this. And then I would start to talk about all the things that were weighing heavy on me that, like, I could have just dealt with those things first and not have to go through this whole thing. And I've gotten to a place now in my relationships where it's rare when I go into the major emotional crisis and don't immediately realize, like, okay, what have I not been allowing myself to feel? What have I not been facing? What am I not dealing with? What needs me right now? Because I know it has nothing to do with the fact that my kid is humming this one line of this one song over and fucking over again and driving me insane. I know that he's just triggering a part of me that is already in crisis. And then I can deal with myself, and the whole house settles down as my nervous system settles down. And so I'm not saying a mother is the only one who has to do her work. Absolutely not. Everyone in our lives needs to be doing their work. We can't make anybody else do the work. So the only work we're in control of is our work. And I've seen time and time again, a mother does her work and a whole household shifts and heals with her. It's just like I was talking about yesterday about how women, we become this emotional vortex at the center of the family, right? And we can either be swept up in the busyness of our family, in all of their emotions and all of this other shit. We can be powerless in the center of that vortex and feel like we're getting flushed down a drain all fucking day. Or we can rise up and we can remember our power and we can get grounded in ourselves and we can remember who the fuck we are, reclaim solid ground underneath our feet and our right and our deservingness to stand on it. We can learn to flow with our emotions, become so fucking intelligent and wise with our emotions, so fluid with them that no longer are they rocking us off center and no longer is anyone else's stuff rocking us off center, and we can move with it with a bit of detachment where we stay in our center and the thing stays out here, and we can get curious about it and we become curious observers, and this opens up creative problem solving. It opens up spaciousness between the trigger and your reaction so that you have space to choose a different way of being in the world, so that you have space to choose your words more wisely, so that you have the space to decide, how do I want to show up to this? This is happening. My kid is losing his goddamn mind. He won't come up the stairs because his sock is like not perfect or whatever, unreasonable seeming thing the kid is doing. It's happening, and short of picking them up and bringing them up the stairs yourself, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. And so it's cultivating that detachment from it, and the ability to stay in your center and to be like, okay, this is happening. How am I going to show up for it? There's a major crisis in your family. Maybe a parent ends up in the hospital, there's a health crisis, or one of your siblings is doing a thing and you're having family drama stirred up, or maybe there's a financial thing coming up. Maybe you just lost your job or your partner loses their job, and you're in this space where you can easily get pulled into this vortex and get fucking lost in the emotions. Right? Our kid throwing a tantrum is no different to the nervous system than losing a job or having a conflict, right? These are all just things that make us feel unsafe. They're things that make us feel like we're not in control and something is very wrong and I need to fix this right away so that I can start feeling safe again. So your kid having a tantrum is just one of the many things that can do that to your body. And being able to cultivate the emotional experience within yourself to create that distance allows the little stuff, the perpetual constant stuff, which our kids doing a thing is all the damn time, especially if you have multiple ones, right? They're triggering you, they're triggering each other. It's a mess, right? Being human around other humans is emotionally complicated. It's messy. Moving through life as a human is emotionally complicated and messy. There are triggers all over the place. Triggering stuff we don't even know is a trigger, right? Like, we are so unaware of the stuff that signals all of this, it's all happening way below the conscious mind, which is why mindset shit and reading parenting books and listening to podcasts is good, but it's not enough, because that deals with the conscious mind. That deals with the surface of the water, which we totally want to deal with. But the part of you that gets triggered by your kid, that immediately feels unsafe by your partner doing a thing, that immediately clenches up and pushes away when a family member does a thing, right? That part of you is being triggered by your brain before your thoughts. So you have the trigger in your body and then you have the thought. So mindset work and affirmations isn't enough, because that's coming after the primal body is triggered, after your nervous system is triggered. And so we have to learn how to get in between these two parts, between the part of us that feels the thing and the part of us that reacts to the thing. Luckily, I'm a master at this. And it's come from needing to. I was an emotional fucking shitstorm all the time before I started this work. I was a mess. I was a wreck all the time. I was a really emo teenager. I was an angry teenager. I was a terrified child. Like, as a child, everything scared me. Like, literally everything. And then I got angry. So then I was scared of everything and angry. And then, life happens and wounds pile up. And before I knew it, I was this scared little deer in, like, a human girl body. On chronic high alert, always reading the room, just waiting, like sensing, waiting for where's the danger, because it's coming, and what do I need to do to avoid it. I was always trying to be one step ahead of everybody. I was always trying to make sure that I was going to fit in, that I would be safe, trying to get my needs met. And that creates so much anxiety. I never realized till I was outside of that just how unlivable that life was. Oh my God, even something little like picking out my clothes for the day felt monumental. It felt like it meant everything about who I was, and having to make that decision and hating myself so much and being so afraid of being rejected, so afraid of not being enough, so afraid of not fitting in, of not belonging, of being found out for what a fucking loser I thought I was, right? For what a crazy person I thought I was. The idea of someone seeing the amount of like shame and stuff that I was hiding inside of me. I felt like I picked the wrong outfit. I do the wrong thing with my hair. I don't get my makeup perfect. And suddenly everyone's going to see it. And so I would end up in a fucking puddle on the floor of my closet, crying and anxious and stressed over what to put on my body. And then my partner didn't understand. He's like, dude, like, you look fine, like, you look amazing, what's wrong? Like, he didn't understand why picking out clothes. He's like, go buy new clothes. Like, if you don't like any of your clothes, go, like, here's some money, go buy some clothes. And I'd be like, it's not the fucking clothes, it's not about the clothes. And I would just burst into tears, and he'd be like, well, then what is it about? And I'm like, I just fucking hate myself. And it took a lot, and that was eventually what it would come out. And it's like, parenting, while that is inside of you, is next to impossible. And so, of course, you show up short with your kids. Of course, you, like, show up exhausted and you haven't done anything yet today. And you're already tapped out. Of course, you wake up fucking done with the day. Dreading it. I used to dread waking up. I would dread going to bed because I knew my kid wouldn't sleep. I dreaded waking up because I knew I'd be so tired I could barely function, and I would have like no real support. I didn't even know what the problem was to be able to fix it, and all of my energy was trying to go to fixing all these other problems, working myself out until I ended up in physical therapy because I could barely fucking walk, and still working out, still damaging and hurting my body. Like, just so much stuff I did, like, in the pursuit of perfection, of safety. Our pursuit of perfection is truly a pursuit of safety. It's a pursuit of belongingness. And so we're all very aware of how this works in our regular lives. At least a lot of us are. And it's becoming much more clear. But then it translates into our parenting too. We're trying to be perfect parents. We're trying to make our kids be perfect kids so that our kids belong, so that our kids don't face rejection, or so that we don't face rejection because of a choice we've made about our kids, so that we still belong. And it just takes all of this turmoil that already exists in us from childhood and has been getting amplified and tighter and tighter with more and more pressure. It's been getting muddier and uglier and more tangled, and it's been festering inside of us for so damn long already. Then you add a child to that, and it's just massively intensified. Suddenly, all of that pressure is no longer just about feeling good about yourself and fitting in, but some primal part of you, your like primal animal mother in you, is like, I must make sure my family stays safe, right? I must nourish and care for my people. This is my job. And you're already depleted and you're already in turmoil. And then you're failing at this thing that is your biological job that your primal self knows and is like being called to do, to love and nourish and nurture your people, to make the baby stop crying when the baby's crying, not because it means you're a bad mom if your baby cries, but because you'll get fucking eaten, the whole family. The wolves will know where you are when the baby is crying. So when the baby's up crying at night, you're like, holy fuck, I have to make the baby stop crying. And you don't necessarily know why it feels so intense, why you're so terrified, but like some primal part of you is like, if this baby doesn't shut up, like the wolves will find us and we're all dead. When I realized that, I had so much more compassion for the part of me that had severe postpartum depression and anxiety. I'm like, no wonder I wanted to put a pillow over my baby's face when he was up crying all night. No wonder those thoughts flashed in my mind, not because I'm horrible and I don't love my kid and I'm a bad mom, but it's like a survival instinct. Like, I must hush this thing up. Like, it's primal panic. And until we tend to this, and until we tend to the nervous system and we learn how to take care of ourselves in a way that honors our energy levels, that nourishes and fortifies our nervous system, this primal unconscious piece of us, right? That's always responding to the danger around us. Until we learn how to deal with this, it's like every stage of parenting just gets compounded and compounded and compounded. And that primal panic never really goes away, because now it's about, well, if the teachers don't like my kid, they're not going to take good care of him. And when X, Y, or Z happens, like my child might not survive. Like there is this primal fear of like us not fitting in, of our children not fitting in. And so we were taught with the old parenting paradigm, get your kids to behave. This is how you ensure that your child makes it in the world. We got molded for a world that required perfection, that required smallness and pleasantness and, following the rules, being very easy. That's what our parents needed from us, because that's what the world told us told them was required for us to fit in. Make sure they work hard, they study, they get good grades, make sure they're calm and quiet and polite. They should never disrespect adults, right? We were taught to be so powerless, essentially. And so when we were demonstrating power, when we were demonstrating wild, unacceptable expression of these emotions that we wouldn't have been safe expressing in the world, our parents had to shut it down. They had to shut down our anger and call it disrespect, because in the real world, we might not have fit in for it. We wouldn't have been successful adults. They aren't setting us up for a successful experience. They're not preparing us for the real world by allowing us to feel so wildly, so unabashedly, so bold in our anger or our sadness. By wanting attention and affection, that's not what kids are here for. Kids and adults are separate. There's a line. Kids must go and play and entertain themselves. You must learn how to become independent. You must learn how to not need me. And a child doesn't understand, like, oh, you're preparing me for a world that doesn't care about me, because that is the world we've been growing up in for generations and generations, is a world that doesn't truly care about people, but cares about power and status and, everything but actual human people. And so as a child, you read that as my emotions aren't safe because I get punished for them. I get fussed at for them. I get pushed away. I get abandoned and rejected. And that primal part of them knows they must do anything to stay in the tribe, right? And so they shut down their emotion. The child is like, noted. Emotions are bad. Emotions bad. I'm going to punish myself every time I feel something now. I'm going to make sure that I'm perfect. I'm going to make sure that I don't feel things, or that I don't disturb or disrupt other people with my feelings. I'm going to make sure I don't need anything from anybody, because that's a bad thing and I should be able to do this on my own. And it's so innocent. Our parents truly thought they were preparing us for the real world and doing us a service. And I mean, they did. Like, I got parented along those lines, and I was an A+ patriarchal good girl. I made the grades. I was in student government. I was on swim team and volleyball. I was thin. I had blonde hair. I was pretty. I was polite. Teachers loved me. Parents loved me. I had a steady boyfriend all through high school, even though he cheated on me all the fucking time. I was still nice and pretty, and I would win him back every time. And it just set me up for a life where I don't matter. And I know so many people relate to this. I share my story because I know it's not just my story. I know my story is our story. And so I find myself in relationships where I allow people to treat me like shit, where I don't even recognize emotional abuse as what it is. Like relationships where I'm not being met, where I'm being manipulated, like the mind fuckery of not being allowed to know things growing up turns into an adult woman who doesn't know things, who can't trust herself, who feels so fucking confused about the right way to be and the right way to deal with this fucking pain that she's holding inside of her, that she desperately needs to get rid of so that she can feel good enough, right? So she looks outside of herself because she was raised to look outside of herself. She was raised, you don't know anything. I know, parents know, teachers know, but then we see our parents not acting the way that they explain the rules. We see these two teachers teaching us two different things. We see, oh, next year this teacher's saying this thing. We start to realize that all of the adults are contradicting each other, but they're the ones who know. And we're the ones who are bad for not understanding and not following along and playing the game perfectly, but no one's in agreement on the rules. No one else is actually following the rules. And you grow up and you're just mind fucked by it all. So of course, we have this like epidemic of depressed, anxious mothers who are fucking desperate. They are like in a panic. Someone help me, something help me. I can't feel like this anymore. They know that. That's the only thing that is clear to a mom in this state, is like, I cannot continue like this. Not another day of this. I cannot feel like this anymore. Someone fucking help. And so we cling to a diet, or we cling to an exercise plan, or we cling to like a fucking group of people that maybe we hate, but hey, we fit in here. We cling to old habits and patterns. We cling to ways that we can numb and distract ourselves. We cling to partners who maybe aren't operating at their highest capacity, and we cling to relationships that don't serve us because we don't know what the fuck else to do, and we can't trust ourselves. So the last thing we would do is listen to what we think we need. And so it creates this powerlessness. And when you bring this powerlessness into parenting, into a power struggle with a kid, everything suddenly is about creating safety. It's about survival. How do I make this go away? How do I make this stop so that we can be safe? And if you've noticed within yourself, that never creates safety. You hit the goalway and you still feel unsafe. You have the romantic weekend away and it's great, and then you come home and you go back to feeling unmet and unseen. Like, It doesn't create safety. And so the solution with parenting, with when we get into this space with our kids where we're triggered, where this inner shitstorm that is now so very clear and obvious, when that is being triggered by our child's experience, can you see how it creates this total inability to show up in wholeness with them? If we are disempowered in so many areas of our life, we can't show up in our power with our kids. And we continue to model disempowerment and dysfunction. Not on purpose, but just because that is what has been modeled for us. That is what you have been trained into. And I know so many moms were like, God, if my kid would just sleep, if my kid would just listen, if my kid would just blah, 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 then I wouldn't be so fucking stressed out all day long. And that's probably true. Yeah. There's probably some truth to that. And it's not the whole truth. It's not the whole truth. What happens when we feel triggered by our kid is they are either triggering this exhaustion, this inner fucking turmoil. They are triggering our nervous system, right? Or they are triggering a belief in us that says that the way that they are being is not okay, that it's not good and safe and natural, it's not allowed, and so we must fix them. We must control them. We must power over them. We must be in power as parents. We must be the ones in control. And this comes only from feeling out of control. This does not come from truth. This comes from deep unsafety in the body. When you feel safe in your body, when you feel anchored and grounded in your body, when you have the tools and the skills and the practice of attuning your nervous system, and you can start to show up whole in these experiences, you can see that what your kid is experiencing is totally fucking normal, right? The emotion, you can see under the behavior, the emotion underneath it. You can see that maybe they're just tired. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they need a break from their screens. Maybe they're overstimulated. Maybe they're overwhelmed by all the other kids. One of the biggest things I learned was realizing, like, my kid's not an asshole. He doesn't, like, not like other kids. He gets overstimulated really easily around other kids. And what he needs is not to be told to be nice. Be nice to your cousins, or be nice at the park, or go make friends. Because then that makes him feel like a fucking loser, right? Like, oh, I'm not doing a good job of making friends. Or, oh, I'm not nice. Or it pisses him off more because he knows inside, no, I'm nice. This isn't the problem. I'm just overstimulated. I need to get away from all these kids. I need a moment to myself. And so the best thing I've learned with him is letting him disengage from the group when he needs to. Letting him go be antisocial. God, that would have saved my life as a kid. Being allowed to be antisocial, to be a sensitive, quiet person who just needs some time away from everybody. That can be having fun on this play date, and it doesn't mean I don't like everybody here, right? It doesn't mean that I hate you or I don't value your presence at my house. It just means, like, okay, this is fun and I need a moment. I need to just go in my room for a little while. And that really, really changed a lot with the way that our play dates started to go down, because he was allowed to check out when he needed to. He was allowed to leave and do what he needed to do to take care of himself. And then he would come back whole. He felt respected. He felt seen. He felt validated in his needs, right? And he didn't have to fight me. And he didn't get to a point where he was so overstimulated and triggered that he was like freaking out at his cousins. He got to notice he needs a break and go take care of himself. And I think that's one skill. If every mother could learn how to do this one thing, parenting would be so different. The motherhood memes, the funny mother jokes, like the mom humor, wouldn't fucking exist because we wouldn't need it. We wouldn't need mom humor to cope with how unwell we're taking care of ourselves, or how untaken care of we are. I used to read the mom humor and laugh along with it and feel so seen. Now I read it and I'm horrified and sad that this is like normal. I forget, it's been so long since I've been in that place as a mother, as a person, as a human, as a woman, that when I see, and I tend to be around a lot of healers or awake women or like my clients who are doing this work and evolving, right? So I'm not in, that's no longer my worldview anymore. A mother that's overwhelmed and depleted and exhausted and resentful and coping with humor and memes. Like when I see that now, I'm like, it feels like pain in my system. It doesn't feel funny at all. And I think this is truly why I'm here. This is why I do this work, is to end this lineage, these cycles of painful mothering. Because motherhood doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be exhausting. And it doesn't mean you have to show up less for your people either. You can be well cared for, well tended, and still showing the fuck up for your people. In fact, I show up so much more fully in my home because I take better care of myself. I was doing all the things, like I was like a fucking frantic Stepford mom on the outside. People were like, oh, mom goals, or like, you know, everyone loved, like Gus and I were like this symbol of like just a great bonded mother and son. And the truth was, I was clinging to him like a fucking life raft, because on the outside, that was the one area of my life where I felt like I was getting it right. And so I played it way up. I went all in on that. So much so that it made me fucking nuts. It gave me complete anxiety. I've spent so much time feeling like I had to get it right for him because this is the only way I am accepted. And so if I stop getting it right with him, or if people see where I'm not getting it right with him, then everyone's going to know that I don't belong here and I'm going to get kicked out from the tribe and I'm going to die and my kid is going to die because I'm not there to take care of him, right? Cue the primal panic. So I'm going to invite you to just sit, because this has been a lot. I know this has been a lot. And I knew today, I was coming into today and feeling like I knew there were so many different points that I wanted to touch, that this topic is so massive and it's delicate and it's complicated and it's intricate, right? There are so many moving parts to it and they're all connected. And at the end of the day, what I desire is to just open your eyes and introduce you to another possibility, another perspective of what motherhood can be like. Because the experience of motherhood that I have today, I wasn't shown this by anyone. I hadn't seen anyone in my life being this. I hadn't seen people talking about this on the internet, right? Granted, this was like 5.5 years ago that I dove into this piece of my journey. It was totally outside of my worldview. I had no idea it was possible, but I arrived here in this experience. I've learned so much about parenting, not by studying parenting. Like, I've actually read very little parenting stuff, and I don't listen to all the parenting podcasts. There's an amazing book, though, that I will recommend called Becoming Better Grown-Ups. Essentially, his point is that kids think grown-ups are big, busy, boring, and distracted. And they don't want us to be perfect. They want us to just put our phones down and look at them and be present with them. They don't really give a shit. And they still love us. That was the other key. They think we're boring and distracted and that we don't get it. They're like, adults just don't fucking get it. They're so dumb. They don't understand magic. They don't understand how the world works and what's important. And they're so stressed. And we adore and love them anyways. It's a really, really good book. I highly recommend it. Again, it's called Becoming Better Grown-Ups. But I just read that this past year during quarantine. It was great. And the book is fun. It's laid out like really fun. Like your inner child will really enjoy reading it. But I've learned so much about parenting through reparenting my own inner little one. By listening to my inner child, she taught me how to be a different kind of mother for my son. And it's really fucking beautiful if you think about it, because the reason my inner child was able to teach me what kind of mother to be was because she needed me to be that for her. because my parents couldn't be that for me because their parents couldn't be what they needed. It's like we have these cycles of trauma and pain that get passed on from generation to generation, and then we get to heal it. We get to be that line in the lineage that says no more. I'm going to go back in time. I'm going to drop deep into my body, deep into my heart, and find that younger me and see, what did she need from me? What did she need from my parents? What did she need from the world? And I'm going to find a way to give it to her. And I'm going to be here for her. And I'm going to give her everything she never had, everything she ever wanted. And in doing that with myself, I'm able to see Gus for the child that he is. I'm able to see him through the lens of my inner child with her wisdom, with her clear vision of the world and how things work. She is so intelligent. And she needs boundaries because untended to, it's like this 7-year-old is in charge of my life. But in seeing her and in doing this healing work with her, it's given me the opportunity to mature and to grow up and to cultivate emotional maturity and emotional fluidity and really taking self-responsibility for myself, my life, for my experience of my life. And it's grown me up in ways nothing ever could have done. No book, no podcast, no affirmations, nothing but reparenting my little one, becoming who she needs me to be. Nothing but that process could have gotten me to where I'm at today. And now my intention with my son is to just get out of his way as much as possible, but being present and attuned, having my nervous system calm and grounded as much as humanly possible, which is not all the time, by the way. It's not humanly possible to always be attuned, to always have your nervous system be chill. So know that that's not the goal. The research says we only have to show up attuned with our children 1 out of 3 interactions. So if you can develop these tools and start to show up present and unruffled with your kids for every 1 of 3 interactions, you become a stable base that creates less dysfunction in their relationships in the future, in the way that they relate to people and the world. This is science. This is research on attachment theory. That's a whole other, there's tons of information on that on the internet if you want to Google about attachment styles in parenting, how it affects parenting, dating, the rest of your life. It could blow your mind. There's a book called Attached that's really good. But ultimately, it's about attuning your nervous system and becoming a solid home base for yourself, for that inner child that didn't have the solid home base. You get to become that for her. If you grew up without a solid home base, without a solid, safe connection with somebody who is steady and consistent. And by steady and consistent, they mean 33% of the time, not 100% steady and consistent. But more times than not, like most of the time, you knew that person, you could count on them to hold space for you, to let you have your feelings, to encourage you and support you, to not project their shit onto you, to not meet you in your trigger and get carried away in emotions with you. And so that is my goal as a healer, as a teacher of mothers, is to teach us how to not get lost in the shitstorm of our kids, not get lost in our own personal triggers, how to find your personal power, not so that you can have power over your child, not so that you can make your child be a certain way, but so that you become powerful enough to be with your child. Powerful enough to hold a firm fucking edge when they need it, while honoring their wholeness, while honoring their experience, without shaming them, without blaming them, without judging them, without making them wrong. When you can sit with your kid when they're yelling at you and say, man, I hear you. You sound really angry. And I'm not okay with being yelled at. Here's some ideas for things you can do to go move this anger. Go punch your pillows, go scream in a pillow, go tear paper, go kick your beanbag, go do what you need to do to let this angry out. That's fine. In a way that doesn't hurt me, and in a way that doesn't hurt the house, and in a way that doesn't hurt you. And he doesn't love the idea, but I hold my firm edge, right? I'm able to hold an edge around his anger without stifling it and giving him place to feel his shit in a way that doesn't negatively impact me. And what we teach our kids in this process is healthy emotions, healthy relationships. It teaches them more than your words ever could. And they're not listening to our words like 90% of the time, right? It teaches them how to be with people while staying with themselves, how to still belong without having to abandon themselves in the process. And if there's one thing I wish moms knew, was that abandoning ourselves for other people only breeds disconnect. It only breeds more anxiety, more depression, more relationship strain, more stress and pressure, more perfection. But when you can learn to stay with yourself and be with other people at the same time, that's when your love gets to be felt. That's when your love gets to flow freely and effortlessly. And this is how we ultimately disengage from power struggles, not just with our kids, but with our parents, with our authority figures, with our family members or friends, or even your partner. When we stop trying to win so that we can feel safe and instead learn how to just feel safe, then we get to be with our people and we get to be in connection with them, and we get to have access to our inner wisdom and access to our discernment that tells you, okay, here's where a boundary is needed and here's how to set it, or here's what I'm feeling and these are the words to talk about it. Right? All of this stuff we're trying to do with mindset work and with affirmations and with podcasts and self-development books. Yes, we need all of that to invite us into a new reality, to show us there's a different way. But we can't do it with that. It's like trying to deal with the surface when it's something being stirred at the bottom that's creating all of the waves. And it's trying to get the waves to stop by touching one with every thought and every word and every hand. And instead we get to drop into the nervous system, which is where this shit is being stirred up. And we get to sort of shortcut all of that and create these shortcuts to safety, shortcuts to wholeness, shortcuts to belongingness, shortcuts to deep self-acceptance, so that that pressure is no longer there. And when that pressure to be perfect so that we can survive is no longer there, then you can see so much more clearly. You can hear more clearly, and you can see the person in front of you, and you can see their storm. Once your storm dissipates because you've seen it and you've tended to the root of it, then you see their storm and you see that their storm doesn't need to be fixed from the outside. And then you can zoom in and be like, all right, what's the root of this? They haven't eaten, they had a bunch of sugar. Let me fix you a snack, you know? You don't have to deal with every little thing on the outer edges of what's happening. You get to drop deeply into the truth. And life becomes so much simpler, and you cultivate so much more confidence because you are suddenly reconnected with your power. You remember how to do things. You remember that you get to move through the world in a way that's easier than 90% of the way everyone else is doing it, because you have freed yourself from the old conditioning. You have freed yourself from the old paradigm. You have freed yourself from this pressure to be perfect, from all of this shit that is not you, all of the shit that you came here to experience so that you would finally get to a point of being like, fuck this, enough, no more, and you would free yourself from it and experience the other shit you're here to experience. That's what you're really here for. The ease, the connection, the confidence, the ability to love yourself and your people through all of life's ups and downs, the ability to stay with yourself while being with your people, the ability to take care of yourself without having to run away from your family, without having to run away from whatever is going on. I know so many moms who are like trying to get time away from their family, and while yes, we all need that, fuck yes, I always say one of the best things that ever happened to me was my divorce. because of, that whole emotional mess, but also because it gave me time. It forced me into time with myself that I would have never, ever taken. Probably. I don't know. Who knows? I may have gotten depressed enough to do it on my own. But it forced me into alone time. It forced me into taking care of myself because I fucking had to. And we don't need to always be escaping from our families for like a girls' weekend to be able to be whole. That's not the point here. It's not like never being around or available so that your cup is always full. It's about learning how to not have to leave your life to fill your cup. It's about learning how to create room for you in your life, to where your life is not a thing that drains you, that you need to escape from. And instead, your life can become something nourishing, something that fills you. You can start to do life in a different way. It's not about self-caring and then coming back and being drained, and then self-caring to replenish and then coming back and being drained. Like, that's unsustainable. That's not what we're looking to do here. We're looking to create an entirely new lifestyle, a new way of living life, not by fixing 50,000 things, but by just learning how to be here, how to live inside of here, inside of your body, inside of your center, inside of your heart, where everything becomes easier, everything becomes more clear, the non-negotiables become super clear, the boundaries that need to be set become super fucking clear, and you have the knowing and the confidence to back it up. You have the power inside of you, not because you decided you're powerful. That's not power. What we've been taught is power. What we fear in ourselves, we're so afraid to be powerful because what we've had demonstrated to us as power is not power, it's abuse. So we link power with abuse. And I invite you to consider something different today. That your power is something else entirely, something that you've probably never experienced. You may not even have the words to describe it or the world view to even create a vision of it. So I'm going to invite you into a meditation to meet your power and the truth of it, to meet your wholeness and the truth of it. And I'm going to catch up in the comments really, really quickly. Lauren says, I've never heard someone else describe how I have felt so many times like you did when you shared how you used to feel about yourself and getting dressed. The meltdowns in the closet, your partner's response, being found out, not being enough. Yes, Lauren, I'm so happy you shared that. And of course, we're named twins. Yeah, it would have changed my life to hear someone else talk about that when I was in that place. It would have made me feel so seen and so understood. And then, like, that's the gift we become for our kids, right? When we learn to see ourselves in these situations and have love and compassion for ourselves in these kinds of situations, we get to see our kids in these situations and treat them the way we're treating ourselves. Because we can only give to our children that which we know and experienced in our own body. We may want to give love and compassion to our kids. We may want to give gentleness. We may want to be more playful. But if we are like shaming and blaming and criticizing ourselves all day long, if we are beating ourselves up, if we are being harsh and critical towards ourselves 24/7, what's coming out of us with our people? Harshness, criticalness. Is criticalness a word? It is now. Not to say that that's the only thing that comes out, but until we can go in and stop abusing ourselves, stop treating ourselves so harshly, that harshness is still going to come out in the edges of our parenting and in the undercurrent of our words, because it's there inside of us. It's what we're filling ourselves up with. And I invite you to close your eyes and just see how that feels in your body to be filled with criticism and perfectionism and pressure and judgment. For me, it's like the back of my heart aches and I just want to crack my spine, but it won't. There's like no relief for it. And there's this undercurrent of just wanting to cry. There's this grief. And then there's this anger and this restlessness. There's this pain in my low back. In my throat, you can hear it in my voice. My throat starts to close. When you're in this place, you can't ask for what you need. You can't pursue big desires or dreams. Forget fucking happiness. How do we just feel not like shit? Those are the big goals in this place, is how do I just not feel like shit? How do I just not hate myself so much? How do I just not feel so tired all the time? And just noticing how that feels in your body. It makes me want to curl up in a ball. It feels really, really small. Like there's this really tiny box I have to fit in, and there's a lot of pressure. It's really important that I fit into it and that I get it exactly right. And I invite you to consider, what are you seeking on the other side of that box? What is the end goal of this perfectionism, of this survival? It's literally just that, surviving another day, to experience this another day just for the sake of being surviving. You're like, oh wait, what is the goal? What am I working towards? And that's another reason it's so easy to get lost spinning in this vortex of emotional turmoil, of shit, of trigger. Because we have no anchor point. There's nothing that we're really working towards. We have this vague idea of goodness, of good motherhood that we're working towards, sure. But what does that even mean? What does that even look like? God knows none of the sources agree with each other. So externally, there's no consensus on what that goal looks like. If you don't trust yourself internally, you probably don't have a clear internal goal of what that looks like. And so I invite you right now actually just to get up and stretch and move your body, to shake, to just let this move through your body, to just breathe and be with it. And find the part of you that says, fuck no, this is no longer how I want to feel. The part of you that knows something else must be possible. I don't know what it is, but something else must be possible. And just let yourself be in that in-between, where you're like, yeah, not that anymore. Don't know what instead, but definitely not this. I'm willing to believe that there is something else possible for me, for my family, for myself, for my emotions, for my experience of all of life. And just notice, what does that willingness feel like, that hope? And turn towards it, and instead of shushing it as a fantasy or illogical or needing to make it make sense, I want you instead to sit at its feet, to sit with it and look at this version of yourself and let her speak to you. Let her be wise. Let her know things. Give her permission to open her mouth and to speak, to tell you exactly the life that she wants, exactly what she knows she is capable of experiencing, exactly what she came here to feel and do and be. Let her show you clearly, directly, plain as day, who you really are. And is there a way that you can be her today? That you can start bringing her into your body, into your life? You don't have to go change yourself or fix yourself to become her. You already are her. This is the you that exists under the shit, under the masks that you've cultivated to survive, under your coping mechanisms, under the confusion, under the conditioning. She's already here. It's not about going out to become her. It's about starting to unravel the layers and layers of protection around her that you no longer need. The layers and layers of delusion and illusion around her that you no longer need. Because you know her, you recognize her, you trust her. And so have her give you some action steps or a new belief to try on or some clarity that can be applied today. And you can ask her if she feels like I'm a safe space where she can be more her. If that's a yes, let's get on the phone. Let's talk about how. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to bring you home to you, to walk you back home to your authentic power, to your wholeness, to help you see through the bullshit conditioning, through the shit that's not you, to help you recognize it as not you, and to help you move out from under it, to unravel yourself from it, to be freed from it, so that you can walk into your home and into the grocery store and into the park, into every part of your life as yourself. And so if you desire that too, and you feel like I am someone who can support you with that, let's set up a call. I would love, love, love nothing more than to support you. And yeah, in this moment, to wrap up this space, to wrap up our day 2, I'll invite you to wrap yourself up in golden light. To let your feet touch the ground. To let the sun hit your face. To let the warmth soften your edges. While your spine grows a little taller. Gently tucking your chin as the back of your neck becomes a little longer. Bringing your awareness down to your pelvic bowl. Traveling up to your heart, which is stacked right on top of your pelvic bowl, up to your crown on your head, which is stacked on top of your heart. And just tuning into these 3 energy centers, your womb, your heart, your crown. As you stand on the earth and lifted by the sky. Letting yourself be held here in this balance with deep roots and a light heart. Remembering exactly who you are. Carry this with you into your day. I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you tomorrow at 1.